It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear, Terry Bressi. CheckpointUSA.org. Yeah, here's a unfearful individual. You know, it's very rare. Now, in the second hour, we're going to get into all more goodies on this, but let me go ahead and summarize the first hour. Terry Bressi is an educated individual that saving the planet from foreign objects coming from space going to kill us all. We're all going to die. Not if Terry's on point. Well, he's out there with Kitt Peak, which is an observatory by University of Arizona in Tucson. He has to travel between the University of Arizona and his home to go to Kitt Peak, which is about 50, 60 miles out of Tucson. In that process, 60 miles north of the Arizona border, running parallel with it, not intersecting it, not from Mexico or anything, just happen to be up there, you know, southern Arizona kind of place, on an Indian reservation called the Tohono O'odham Reservation. They allowed and worked with and did whatever to let the federal government come on in, bring all their trucks, all their agencies, all their whatever, and all these multi-jurisdictional task force and kind of things we've been screaming about since the 90s. Now they just go, okay, well, it's not multi anymore. We just call it Homeland Security. And we got fusion centers everywhere, and that's a whole nother story. But we saw the beginning of this. In addition to checkpointing everybody was the creation of the mindset of we know everybody where you are, what you do, sell your data, you're just livestock to be fleeced and get used to it. As a student and I guess graduate student or whatever there at the University of Arizona, Terry would get what they call a cat card because it's the University of Arizona Wildcats. So the student ID came with a number and a database that all the information of the students was shared with this company that they shared, and you can't get your card unless you sign here, that was shared with credit card companies and phone companies. And all of a sudden, you want to know where all this data comes from. You know, it's from government databases. That's what it is, you know, like university. So they were sharing all, and they're going, hey, man, you know, and they go, well, there's only 20 people that's complaining, you know, you don't count. Well, you know, one, it just shows how successful they've been in the brainwashing up to when you get to be college age, that there's only 20, but I'm glad there was 20. Heck, I'm surprised there was 20. So you have somebody come up like Terry and they say, hey, man, you know, are you giving out my data to these people? Am I, you know, on some junk mail, spam email going to send me profiling where I'm purchasing, got information private I gave you, didn't, you know, say you could share with them Social Security number kind of stuff? Well, yeah. Oh, you should not have done that. So what did they do? They went and they sent out emails to various departments at the University of Arizona, and of course it went viral. Now keep in mind, this is late 90s. You know, this is, you know, a bunch of us libertarian types, you know, we knew the power of social media, and certainly on a university, and certainly when people got information that they definitely wanted to share with their friends. Boom! Boom shakalaka! There it goes. So we've had a lot of experience over the years on just how this type of information is disseminated amongst concerned individuals, way before all the tools and power that we have now. So, let's go ahead and finish up with that one real quick, Terry. Tell us, you sent this information out, and what was the response from the people, the students, and the administration and the companies?
Oh, geez, it was overwhelming. I was, you know, when I first sent it out, I was thinking, well, I give a 50-50 chance that I'll be working here tomorrow. You know, I really wasn't sure what the result was going to be.
What was your relationship with the university? What were you doing?
I was, that was the year that I was it was the same year that I had graduated and was transitioning to a permanent position at the university. So I was still considered a university and an employee. So I had both sides of the fence covered there with regards to concerns with how my information was being used.
And standing. Okay, so you send out the information to what? Department heads, faculty, students, what?
I sent them out to a listserv for everyone in my department. So I just, sent out to one email, and it's then redistributed to everybody else. In my department and Stewart Observatory, which is another big astronomy department on campus there. And that was probably a total of about 700, 800 people. There's 50,000 people at the university as a whole. And I'll tell you, within, like I said, within minutes, I was getting phone calls and emailed responses. By the end of the day, I had well over 100 phone calls and another couple hundred emails. By the next day, I mean, it quadrupled. You could see as the information was being passed on to other departments, you could see its progress across the university campus. Within 2 days, every department, I was getting responses from every department on campus, and everybody was up in arms. They had no idea that the university was playing so fast and loose with their personal information, sharing it with commercial vendors without any accountability, and was requiring them to get a new card and then requiring them to sign a form that relieved the university of any responsibility for the misuse of the information that they perpetuated in the first place.
What's interesting about this is that it wasn't until last summer I was at a speaking event, and there was a woman from Oklahoma that really she's up on this Real ID thing, and she made the point that she goes, look, Real ID is not a card, it's the database. How they interface with that is, heck, you just get a picture of your face, boom, they know who you are. They smell your breath, they take a piece of DNA, they eye scan you, fingerprint you, you just kind of walk by it, whatever. It's the database. So what they were doing in your experience was they were creating this database, sharing it with everybody, and it just keeps getting added onto. And now we're conditioned to the point now to where, heck, Facebook and yourself does all the work for the CIA anyway. You just put on, here you go, what the heck. But the thing is that, can I have some knowledge about it? Can I have some permit? Can I go to school here and get the ID without being forced into a third-party contract? Heck, that was the definition of involuntary servitude. That's a violation of the 13th Amendment. You're forcing me into a third-party contract. And I'm going, especially after I already paid my money and did the deal. I mean, there's so many issues involved here. What was the response from the administration and the companies? How did this ever get resolved, if it did?
Sure. Well, I got to give kudos to the administration. In fact, the president, I think Manuel Pacheco had just resigned or moved on to a different position earlier that year, and Dr. Likens, I think, had just been there for a couple of months, so he had no clue what was going on. He kind of just stepped right in the middle of something that he didn't know anything about. But he really took the bull by the horns there, and within a week he called a public forum. Okay, where he said, the people who perpetrated this were going to be up on the stage and they were going to answer to the public at large. Okay, and they opened it up, and the first venue that they set, held 300 people. It wasn't big enough. They had to move to a bigger venue on campus to hold everybody from the community that was pissed by what had happened, and people vented for well over an hour.
And what was the end result before we get to the break here in a few seconds? The end result was what?
The end result was that they tore up all of the agreements that people had signed, relieving the university of responsibility, and they allowed people an opt-in option so that you still had to get the card, but you could choose not to have your picture, not to have your signature, and any of your other information in the database. So you could just get the card, and then you could verify that they removed your information from the database that they were still collecting. So they gave you information about what they were doing and allowed you to opt out.
But what are they doing now? Well, we'll get to that when we come back. But it just okay, we gave you a one step back, 14 forward later. Well, we're going to find out how forward they went and get back to checkpointusa.org, and Terry's experiences when we come back. You stay right there.